So this is a new episode of Let's Build. Let's Build 16. Let's Build is a stream from me, Gernot Glave. And now we have the sound check. Hello, am I there? Yes, everything was okay. We can really start. Let's Build is a weekly stream by TechRaiser, mostly of me and sometimes my colleagues. And we are building things on AWS. I'm a consultant and trainer at TechRaiser, and training means like tomorrow and the next 3 days we're doing an AWS development training. And development is somehow the topic of today. And that is, let's build with serverless things to know, or as I like to say, things to think about. Ask yourself before starting with serverless. If you start with serverless, start looking around, you really get very many options. So if I'm going to Google and Google serverless frameworks, I get 5,500 results. Okay, these are not all frameworks, but there are many different types of frameworks for serverless. And my question is, do we really need the different kind of frameworks? AWS itself has competing frameworks for serverless and for other things. And what I have found in my experience is that you really need different flavors of frameworks, because you have some deep down developer guys who really want to automate all the things. And this is what Werner Vogel says, automate everything. So this is good. And I'm one of those guys. And then you have those GUI guys who like to have everything bundled and not so much control. Now I want to ask you a few questions to think about, so that when you discuss a framework or look at a framework, you do not say it's good or it's bad, just it's fit for me or it's not fit for me. And what I'm doing here is preparation for a 3-session stream. This is the first one for that, to show you some frameworks. But you can look with another eye, another view to the frameworks if you have thought about the questions. And to support that we have frameworks and we can try it out, we have the TechRaiser infrastructure benchmarks. And we started it 2 years ago with the infrastructure frameworks, where we have CDK, CloudFormation, GoFormation, Pulumi, Terraform, and we are now building up the serverless standard benchmark to have a comparison. And we have ready out-of-the-box templates which are running, and this is our standard use case. And I invite you the next 2 sessions to try some of these frameworks out. But at first, let's build with serverless and look things before you start with serverless. What do you have to think about? The thing to think is there are many services on AWS, and there are different ideas of how to develop. One thing I find controversial is many people are asking, okay, this is Lambda, this is the cloud, but I want to debug locally. And I, as a full-hearted developer, I say, no, you do not want to debug locally. You want to have test-driven development so that you don't have to debug. Or some people say, okay, logging is very much better at step debugging than step debugging. So we have very many services, and they have different capabilities, and offline capabilities are one trend of that. Let's have at first a look at all those nice services. The first thing is Lambda, who it had birthday. turning 5 years, and this is just function as a service. Okay. Then we have, not so widely known, a service repository where you can put your whole applications. And this one is bound to, at the moment, let's wait for reInvent, to one flavor of the framework, the SAM framework. And CDK has much more speed than SAM, but SAM has its niches and also its cases. So then we have DynamoDB, and before Lambda, DynamoDB was not called serverless, it was just a NoSQL database. And this is the standard way to store a relational database. And the discussion here is about single table design, whether you project relational data to DynamoDB. Then we have Aurora Serverless, which also was not called serverless before, so it's a little bit of a marketing coup to do that. This is just an SQL database. It's MySQL and PostgreSQL compatible. And the serverless thing is that it can rest if you do not use it. And that's what they call serverless. If you take serverless to this great account, you can say most of the AWS services are serverless because they are managed services. So it's also marketing. Then we have S3. It's quite a few years old now. And at the beginning, it was also not called serverless. And with S3, you also have the simple type to deal with it. You have the console. You have the GUI. You can upload this. Maybe you get something like CyberDuck. It's an application where you can upload things, or you use it with the SDK. You program against it. And these are very different flavors. And some frameworks support more the direct things, and some frameworks more the indirect things. Now as for my opinion, one of the best quite new services, and one controversial service, because Amplify is an all-in-one package. You got your CI/CD development pipelines, but the internals are not visible from the outside. You have a logging, but there is no service inside. And so that's the flavor you have to think about yourself. Do you like it more the Microsoft way? You have one package, one click with the GUI, and you do not want to know what's going under the hood, what is the base building blocks? Or do you want your CI/CD pipeline and say, okay, this is my code deploy. Here I have my container, and I can configure that container. And this is the main thing you have to ask yourself. Do you want control over things? Then the work is a little bit harder in the beginning, but in the end, you will have a higher degree of automation. And if you have an error, and with Amplify, I'm using it a lot right now, sometimes there are interesting things. It works like a charm most of the time, but if you have to debug something and you have a whole package and cannot look underneath, then it's harder to debug. Then we have Cognito Authentication Service. And with this service, you see where the Amplify is coming from. I think it's the successor to the Mobile Hub, because Amplify is also for the mobile services. You can do it with Swift on iOS and other devices. And Cognito is the authentication serverless service. So we have very, very, very many services. And the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you want to have, as I would say, AWS usual, do you want to have building blocks and frame it together? Or do you want to have packages where everything is bundled for you, like Beanstalk? In the beginning, the bundling services are much easier, but in the long run, something is lacking. So ask yourself the first thing, what kind of developer are you? Are you more a managed console guy? That means you working with the console all the time. The graphical user interface, it's called console at AWS. In the old days, console was a terminal, but now it's the graphical user interface. And you can just start with Lambda with the console, the user interface. You can say, create a Lambda, everything is done for you, and you can type in the user interface. You could do that if you just want to look a little bit around in serverless, but then you are a GUI guy. And I think for more complex operations, there will always be some mysteries for you because you do not know what is under the hood. And there are many advantages, but it's not so easy in the beginning if you are working against a repository and have your code base ready at your laptop or where are you working instead of having everything in the terminal. But if you do not want to have an IDE on your laptop, you can have Cloud9. And Cloud9 is a whole integrated development interface in the cloud. And this is also a little mix between the GUI and console. Or are you more a VI girl? So this is really the hard way, really doing the console and the text terminal. This reminds me of a discussion we had, and one colleague said, okay, what's it today? We had the text interfaces 50 years ago. Didn't we progress something? It's the future. Why do we have that? And the thing is, with the command line interfaces programming, you have more control and you can really develop more complex and more robust applications. You can solve more complex problems. So this is the first thing. Do you want to have more like a whole package and a graphical interface, or you just click a few things, or do you want to really develop for that? That's the first thing. And a little bit bundled to that is the question, what is the experience level you start and what is the experience level you want to have? And that means how much time are you willing to invest? Are you just playing around for yourself? Or do you really need it for work? How many hours or days or weeks or even months do you want to invest? If you have a degree in information science, then you should start from a higher experience level. And there are many people now in the IT industry who have no formal education, and they compete with people who have about 10 years of experience. And this is not the same. I'm not talking about real developers or 10-time developers, but I'm talking about simple problems that you can solve or complex problems what you can solve. Because with experience, you just know, okay, this situation, we have that before. So ask yourself, what are you willing to invest? Because with these fast times, sometimes I think everybody is, they think, okay, I have a YouTube video, and if it's longer than 5 minutes, I'm not going to do it. And with serverless, yes, you can start in 5 minutes, and you can have a Lambda up and running in 5 or 10 minutes. But I would suggest that you take your time and really play around a little bit with that. I do not mean that you have to read many documentation at the start. But if you want to start the book from Nadia David, the serverless book is really great. Or the video series from Yang Xiu, The Burning Monk, also really great. And I would suggest, okay, really start. So take your time, and this is more than a few hours. Should invest a little bit more from that. So, and if you are really want to do everything by yourself, you can write your own framework. And this is fun also. At the moment, if you have watched the last episodes and episode before, I'm writing my own CloudFormation deployment framework. It's not really needed because there are several things, but I'm writing it for speed because I love the CDK, but sometimes with deployment it's really, really slow. So I'm rewriting some things, just the things I need, not so much, just a few days of efforts in Go so that it's fast. With that, you can have very great control and power with that, but it takes time. If you see the serverless framework, it's in development for years. So you're competing with, I think it's tens of man years for that. And you will not reinvent, pun intended, that in a few days. But if you just need to have, like me at the moment, a fast deployment, it could make sense that you build your own thing. But this is really the Iron Man type, and I do not mean Avengers Iron Man, I mean Triathlon and so on. So this is the hardest idea to work. If you say, okay, I want to do many things on my own, but I do not want to really do assembler language. And if you look at the CDK, which by the way, it's great, then sometimes CloudFormation is called the assembly language, assembler it's in German, meshing language, for the cloud, for AWS. It's just about AWS here. And that also sometimes makes sense, because it's like in the older days with Microsoft Word, if you store Word as an HTML page, it's horrible HTML. There's clutter in it. It's not easy readable, too much characters, and so on. And if you write your own CloudFormation, you do not have the meta tags with the CDK. So if you want to have a clear and pure language for that, it could make sense in a project to write CloudFormation directly. And the other thing with CloudFormation is it's stable now. The CDK has a new version each week, and sometimes it's not really breaking changes, but you have to touch everything. If you just use CloudFormation or Terraform for that, it's really stable. So, and if you say, okay, I will not write my own framework with the SDK and will not program everything, I do not want to use the assembly language of the web CloudFormation, then you can have packages with a higher abstraction level. And this, for instance, is the CDK. If you want to have just a Lambda function with an API gateway, and the Lambda function is written in TypeScript, these are just 20 lines with the CDK. And most of the lines are boilerplate code. So you have a higher level of abstraction, and you do not have to know what it's going down under the hood, which are the components, but you should know it. And for the simple things, or to say, if you have a standard pattern, and most of the problems we face today, they have standard patterns. There are many people who have solved these problems. And the CDK is a great effort from the community. Many people are contributing and giving their solutions away. So you really come fast to a level. But this is not a GUI level. This is more abstraction, but a very high abstraction level. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what do I want to know? want to have. I want to have complex patterns with high abstraction fast, or do I want to go a little bit deeper with CloudFormation, or even write my own code with the SDK? And even one step further is Amplify, as I told you with the example of a development pipeline. I've wrote a blog post about the development pipeline, build pipeline from CDK, which is now included. And before that, you have to write the building blocks yourself. So you have a code deploy, a build pipeline, and so on. And now you have one component, one construct for the development pipeline. But under the hood, you know it's CloudFormation, and you know here is my code deploy and so on. If you say, no, I just want the package and everything which the decisions, the engineers and software people who wrote this, the decision they make, I'm good with that. I'm just using it and starting. And Amplify is really great. Amplify is also great for other things, but you can really start Nadedabit will or just having a stream about a whole application in half an hour. So you have this package, you just say, okay, deploy it, and you can combine it with your domain with just one click. You do not have to program Route 53 for that and combine it and have a certificate. You just say, okay, I want the standard certificate with the standard things here. And so you have different levels, program all yourself, make CloudFormation, a little bit of abstraction or very high level abstraction. And these are only the services from AWS. And you can really good start with them. Sometimes third-party tools are also a good fit for you, but here from the AWS services, you have solutions on all experience levels. And this is what I wanted to show you as a starter, because next week I want to talk about the frameworks. And after that, I want to talk about the programming languages, because if you have a use case or you have a project, then you have to make choices. And the choice should not be, oh, we always have done C#, and we always have used CloudFormation, so we will do serverless with C# and CloudFormation. No, I think it has very many advantages if you're looking at the different possibilities and choosing the right thing for your code, because the frameworks have different strengths and weaknesses, and the programming languages also. And with serverless, you usually write small functions, so it's okay to learn a new language. Usually in the old days and nowadays said, okay, as a developer, you should learn a new programming language each year. I do not know whether I've succeeded in that, but the big 5 programming languages of serverless, it's good to know them. And sometimes there is just a library in Python, which is a very good fit, or you have to do something very fast, then Go is a good fit, and so on. And this is also for the frameworks. And with the frameworks, I want again talk about a little bit the overview of the solutions we have here. With Marco a few months ago, we have did a 2-hour video about SAM and CDK in depth. But I just want to show you the current state of the frameworks with examples to do that. And this is also, we'll also do an example with Terraform to show you what the advantages and disadvantages of that. So, this was just the starting point for the 3 episodes, a shorter one for that. And my suggestion is just think about, okay, if you want to start with serverless, a really, very good thing for the holidays also to start with it. But before you choose, just think about a little bit yourself, what is your starting point and where do you want to go? Do you really just want to play around a little bit, or do you want to go deep, and where do you want to end? What is your target for that? And with these thoughts, that's it for today. See you next week, and stay healthy and keep on building in the cloud. Till then, bye-bye.